The afternoon sun warmed the neighborhood park as Anthony Taylor closed his car door and reached for his daughter's hand. 8-year-old Lily bounced excitedly beside him, her curly hair pulled into 2 puffs secured with yellow ribbons that matched her sundress. "Can I go to the swings first, Daddy?" Lily asked, already tugging him toward the playground. Anthony smiled down at his daughter. "Of course, sunshine. Just stay where I can see you, okay?" Lily nodded seriously before racing off toward the swings, her light-up sneakers flashing with each step. Anthony found an empty bench with a good view of the playground and settled down, pulling out the dog-eared paperback he'd been trying to finish for weeks. Between his job at the architectural firm and taking care of Lily, free time for reading had become a luxury. The park bustled with weekend activity, families picnicking on blankets, teenagers playing basketball, and elderly couples strolling along the paved paths. Anthony glanced up every few minutes to check on Lily, who had made friends with another little girl on the adjacent swing. His daughter had always been outgoing, a trait she'd inherited from her mother. The thought of Jasmine brought a familiar ache to his chest. 3 years had passed since the car accident that took her life, but sometimes the grief still felt fresh. He watched Lily laugh as she pumped her legs to swing higher, and saw glimpses of Jasmine in her smile. He'd promised his late wife that he would give their daughter the best life possible, and despite the challenges of being a single father, it was a promise he intended to keep. After about 40 minutes, Anthony noticed Lily waving at him. He tucked his bookmark between the pages and walked over to the swings. "Ready to go, sunshine?" "Yeah," Lily nodded, jumping off the swing. "Can we get ice cream on the way home?" Anthony pretended to consider this seriously. "Well, you did eat all your vegetables at lunch. I did. Even the broccoli." Lily's face lit up with hope. "Then I think ice cream is definitely happening," Anthony said with a wink, taking her small hand in his. They started walking toward the parking lot, with Lily chattering about her new swing set friend and how high she had managed to go. Anthony listened attentively, asking questions and laughing at her enthusiastic descriptions. "And then I went so high I could almost touch the clouds with my toes." Lily stretched her free hand toward the sky to demonstrate. "Wow, that's impressive. Maybe next time you'll—" "Excuse me." A sharp voice cut through their conversation. Anthony turned to see a woman with short blonde hair hurrying toward them. She wore expensive athletic wear and oversized sunglasses, and her expression was tight with suspicion. Something about her demeanor immediately put Anthony on edge. "Is everything okay?" he asked politely, instinctively pulling Lily closer to his side. The woman ignored his question. Instead, she bent down to Lily's eye level and spoke in an artificially sweet voice. "Honey, are you all right?" "Do you know this man?" Confusion flickered across Lily's face. "That's my daddy," she said, as if stating something incredibly obvious. The woman straightened and gave Anthony a cold, assessing look. "I've been watching you," she said, her voice carrying enough to attract attention from nearby park-goers. "I haven't seen you in this neighborhood before, and you certainly don't look like her father." The implication of her words hit Anthony like a physical blow. He felt his shoulders tense but kept his voice measured. "I assure you this is my daughter. We live just 3 blocks from here and come to this park regularly." The woman crossed her arms. "Really? Because I live nearby too, and I've never seen you." "What's her name then?" "Her name is Lily," Anthony replied evenly, trying to keep the growing anger from his voice. "Lily Taylor. I'm her father, Anthony Taylor." "Daddy, what's happening?" Lily's voice had grown small, her earlier excitement replaced by confusion and fear. "Nothing, sunshine. This lady is just confused," Anthony reassured her, though his heart raced. He'd experienced profiling before, but never with Lily present. He had hoped to shield her from these realities for a few more years. "I'm not confused," the woman insisted, pulling out her phone. "I know what I'm seeing and I'm calling the police." Several people nearby had stopped to watch the confrontation. Anthony felt their stares like pinpricks along his skin. He took a deep breath and reminded himself to stay calm. Losing his temper would only make things worse, especially for Lily. "Ma'am, please. You're frightening my daughter over nothing. If you have concerns, I have ID that proves I'm her father." The woman had already dialed. "Yes, hello? I need police at Oakwood Park immediately. I believe I'm witnessing a kidnapping. A man is trying to leave with a little girl who's clearly not his daughter." Anthony felt sick. This was exactly the kind of situation Black parents warned each other about. Ordinary moments transformed into potential disasters because of someone else's prejudice. He knelt down to Lily, whose eyes had filled with tears. "It's okay, sunshine. We're going to sort this out," he promised, though his mouth had gone dry. "But why is the lady saying you're not my daddy?" Lily whispered, her lower lip trembling. Before Anthony could answer, the woman spoke again, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "The child appears distressed. He's a tall black man, probably in his 30s, and the girl is much lighter-skinned with curly hair. They're heading toward the east parking lot." People were definitely staring now. A middle-aged couple on a nearby bench whispered to each other. A group of teenagers had stopped their basketball game to watch. Anthony felt exposed, judged, and worst of all, helpless to protect his daughter from witnessing it all. "Sir, I need you to stay right here until the police arrive," the woman said firmly, stepping in front of them to block their path. "My daddy didn't do anything wrong," Lily suddenly shouted, her small face flushed with anger and confusion. "Leave us alone." "It's okay, Lily," Anthony soothed, though nothing about this situation was okay. He straightened up and addressed the gathering onlookers. "This is my daughter. We were just leaving the park to go home when this woman decided I must be kidnapping my own child." Some people looked away uncomfortably. Others continued to stare with undisguised curiosity. A young woman with a stroller frowned and approached them. "Renee, what's going on?" she asked the woman who had called the police. "Patricia, thank goodness," the woman, Renee, said. "I spotted this man leaving with this little girl and something just didn't seem right. They don't even look related." Patricia glanced between Anthony and Lily, uncertainty on her face. "Are you sure? Maybe they're just better safe than sorry," Renee cut in firmly. "The police are on their way. If everything's legitimate, then no harm done." No harm done. Anthony wanted to laugh at the absurdity of that statement. The harm was already happening. His daughter was crying, confused about why a stranger was questioning their relationship. Bystanders were watching them like some sort of public spectacle. And the police were coming, a fact that filled Anthony with dread despite knowing he'd done nothing wrong. "Daddy, can we just go home?" Lily pleaded, wiping tears from her cheeks. "Soon, sunshine," Anthony promised, though he wasn't sure if that was true. He tried to think clearly through his rising panic and indignation. Should he stay and wait for the police? Try to leave? Would leaving make him look guilty? Would staying put Lily through even more trauma? In the distance, he heard sirens. "See? The police will sort this out," Renee said with a satisfied nod. She turned to Anthony. "If you're really her father, you have nothing to worry about." Anthony bit back a retort about how much he, as a black man, had to worry about in interactions with police, especially when already presumed guilty. Instead, he focused on comforting Lily, who had pressed herself against his leg. "Everything's going to be fine," he told her, hoping his voice sounded more confident than he felt. "We'll show them your pictures in my wallet, and the one of Mom that you keep in your backpack, and they'll understand that we're family." A small crowd had gathered now, with people pretending not to stare while obviously watching the drama unfold. Anthony felt a hot flush of humiliation creep up his neck. He was a respected architect, a devoted father, a homeowner in this very neighborhood, and yet none of that mattered in this moment. To Renee and perhaps others watching, he was just a suspicious figure, someone who couldn't possibly be the father of this lighter-skinned child. The police car pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing. Anthony took a deep breath and squeezed Lily's hand. "Remember what I always tell you?" he asked her softly. Lily looked up at him with tear-filled eyes but managed a small nod. "We're stronger than they know," she whispered back, their private family motto. "That's right, sunshine," Anthony said, gathering his courage as two officers approached. "And we're going to get through this together." The officers walked toward them with measured steps, hands resting near their equipment belts. Anthony felt his heart hammering against his ribs as the confrontation reached its next phase, knowing that what happened in the next few minutes could change everything. The two police officers approached Anthony and Lily, their expressions professional but wary. The taller officer, a woman with her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, spoke first. "Good afternoon, sir. I'm Officer Chen, and this is Officer Rodriguez. We received a call about a possible situation here." Anthony nodded, keeping his voice steady for Lily's sake. "Yes, I understand. This woman believes I'm kidnapping my own daughter." Renee stepped forward. "I was just being cautious. The child seemed distressed and they don't look related. Officer Rodriguez, a man with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes, knelt down to Lily's level. "Hi there. What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily Taylor," she answered, her voice small but clear. Her hand tightened around Anthony's. "Why is everyone saying my daddy isn't my daddy?" "Nobody's saying that for sure," Officer Rodriguez assured her. "We just need to ask a few questions, okay?" Officer Chen turned to Anthony. "Sir, could I see some identification, please?" "Of course." Anthony reached slowly for his wallet, mindful of how his movements might be perceived. He pulled out his driver's license and handed it to her. "My name is Anthony Taylor. This is my daughter, Lily." The officer examined his ID carefully. "Do you have anything that shows your relationship to the child?" Anthony nodded. "I have family photos in my wallet. Lily also has a picture of her mother in her backpack. My late wife," he added quietly. Officer Chen's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry for your loss. Could we see those photos, please?" As Anthony reached for the photos in his wallet, Renee interjected, "Pictures don't prove anything. They could be fake or belong to someone else." Officer Chen held up a hand. "Ma'am, please let us handle this." She turned back to Anthony. "The photos, sir?" Anthony pulled out 3 slightly worn photos. One of him holding newborn Lily in the hospital, another of the 3 of them at Lily's 5th birthday party, and a more recent one of him and Lily at her school's father-daughter dance. "That's me and Mommy at the hospital when I was born." Lily pointed to the first photo. "Daddy says I was so tiny he was afraid he might break me." Officer Rodriguez smiled gently at her comment. "Your dad kept these photos in his wallet all this time?" Lily nodded seriously. "Daddy says he keeps us close to his heart." The crowd around them had grown, with more park-goers stopping to watch the scene unfold. Anthony felt each stare like a physical weight. Some people were even recording the interaction on their phones. "Officer," Anthony said quietly, "I understand you're doing your job, but this is humiliating and traumatic for my daughter. We've been coming to this park for years. I live 3 blocks from here on Maple Street." Officer Chen studied the photos, then handed them back. "Sir, would you mind if we spoke with you and your daughter separately for a moment?" Standard procedure. Anthony's stomach tightened. The thought of being separated from Lily made him deeply uncomfortable. But he knew refusing would only make things worse. "If it's necessary," he conceded. "But please, she's only 8 and she's already scared." "It'll just be for a minute," Officer Rodriguez assured him. "We'll stay right here where you can see each other." Officer Chen gestured for Anthony to step a few paces away, while Officer Rodriguez remained with Lily. Anthony complied, though every instinct screamed at him not to leave his daughter's side. "Mr. Taylor," Officer Chen began once they were out of earshot, "I understand this is difficult. Can you tell me a bit more about your daughter? Her birthday, her school, allergies? Things a father would know?" Anthony took a deep breath. "Lily Jasmine Taylor, born May 12th, 8 years ago at Memorial Hospital. She's in 3rd grade at Washington Elementary, Mrs. Patel's class. She's allergic to strawberries. We found out at her 2nd birthday party when her face swelled up after eating strawberry cake. Her favorite color is yellow. She loves space and wants to be an astronaut. She's afraid of thunderstorms but pretends she's not because she thinks it makes her brave." As he spoke, Anthony watched Officer Rodriguez chatting with Lily. His daughter still looked upset, but she was answering questions and had stopped crying. "She lost her mother, my wife." "Jasmine, 3 years ago in a car accident," Anthony continued, his voice growing thick. Lily was in the car too, but she wasn't hurt physically. "She still has nightmares sometimes." Officer Chen's demeanor had softened considerably. "I'm very sorry about your wife," she said. "Just a few more questions, Mr. Taylor. Does Lily have any distinguishing marks or birthmarks?" "She has a small heart-shaped birthmark on her right shoulder blade," Anthony replied, "and a scar on her left knee from falling off her bike last summer." Meanwhile, several yards away, Officer Rodriguez was having a similar conversation with Lily. "So, Lily, do you know your address? Where you live?" he asked gently. "To Maple Street," Lily recited confidently. "The blue house with the big oak tree in the front yard?" "That's very good." Officer Rodriguez nodded. "And what's your daddy's full name?" "Anthony James Taylor," she answered promptly. "But I call him Daddy. Sometimes I call him Dad when I want to sound grown up." Officer Rodriguez smiled at that. "And what does your daddy do for work?" "He makes buildings," Lily explained. "He's an architect, That means he draws pictures of buildings and then people build them for real. He has a big desk at home with lots of drawings. Sometimes he lets me draw on his special paper if I promise to be super careful. As they continued talking, an older couple approached Officer Chen and Anthony. "Excuse me, officers," the woman said. "We don't want to intrude, but my husband and I walk in this park every weekend, and we've seen this gentleman and his daughter here many times before. They're always playing together or reading on that bench over there." Her husband nodded in agreement. "They're definitely father and daughter. We've watched them grow up over the years." Relief washed over Anthony at this unexpected support. From the corner of his eye, he noticed Renee shifting uncomfortably, her certainty apparently wavering. Officer Chen thanked the couple for the information and returned to Officer Rodriguez. They spoke quietly for a moment before both approached Anthony. "Mr. Taylor," Officer Chen said, "we're sorry for the inconvenience. Everything seems to be in order here." Officer Rodriguez added, "Your daughter clearly knows you well and is comfortable with you. The witness statements also support your relationship." Anthony let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Thank you. Can we go now?" "Yes, you're free to leave," Officer Chen confirmed. She hesitated, then added, "I apologize for the distress this caused your family." Anthony appreciated the sentiment but couldn't bring himself to say it was okay because it wasn't. This incident would leave marks that wouldn't easily fade. Renee stood nearby, her arms crossed defensively across her chest. Officer Rodriguez approached her. "Ma'am, I understand you were concerned, but in the future, please consider your assumptions carefully before making such serious accusations." "I was just trying to protect a child," Renee insisted, though her voice lacked its earlier conviction. By assuming a black man couldn't be the father of a lighter-skinned child, Anthony couldn't help asking, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Do you know what you put my daughter through today? What could have happened?" Lily ran to Anthony's side, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Can we go home now, Daddy? I don't want ice cream anymore." Anthony's heart broke a little at those words. Their simple father-daughter outing had been ruined. He placed a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. "Yes, sunshine, we're going home." As they turned to leave, a young woman stepped forward from the crowd. She held her phone up apologetically. "Sir, I recorded what happened. If you want a copy of the video, I'd be happy to send it to you." She lowered her voice. "This wasn't right. What happened to you?" Anthony hesitated, then nodded, quickly giving her his email address. He wasn't sure he wanted to see the footage, but it might be important to have. The crowd began to disperse as Anthony and Lily walked toward the parking lot. Some people avoided eye contact, while others offered sympathetic smiles. The officers returned to their patrol car, and Renee hurried away in the opposite direction. Once they reached their car, Anthony helped Lily into her booster seat and buckled her in. When he slid into the driver's seat, he found himself gripping the steering wheel tightly, trying to process everything that had just happened. "Daddy?" Lily's voice came from the back seat. "Why did that lady think you weren't my daddy? Is it because your skin is darker than mine?" Anthony closed his eyes briefly, his heart heavy. He'd always known this conversation would come someday, but he'd hoped it wouldn't be triggered by such a painful experience. "Some people," he began, searching for words that would help her understand without crushing her spirit. "Some people think families should all look exactly alike. But they're wrong. Families come in all different shapes and colors and sizes. Like me and you and Mommy in heaven?" Lily asked. Anthony nodded, meeting her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Exactly like us. You have some of Mommy's features and some of mine. That's what makes you so perfectly you." Lily seemed to consider this for a moment. "That lady was mean and wrong." "Yes, she was," Anthony agreed, turning the key in the ignition. "But you know what? We handled it together, didn't we?" A small smile finally returned to Lily's face. "We're stronger than they know," she repeated their motto. "Always," Anthony affirmed, his voice growing more steady. "And don't worry about the ice cream. We can make sundaes at home instead with extra chocolate sauce." As they drove away from the park, Anthony knew there would be more difficult conversations ahead. But for now, he focused on getting his daughter home where she could feel safe again. Tomorrow would be time enough to figure out how to help her make sense of a world that sometimes failed to see the love and connection between a father and his child. By Monday morning, Anthony hoped the park incident would fade into an unpleasant memory. He made Lily's favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes shaped like stars, and drove her to school with extra time for a proper goodbye. As they pulled up to Washington Elementary, he noticed she was quieter than usual. "You okay, sunshine?" he asked, turning in his seat to face her. Lily fiddled with the straps of her backpack. What if the kids at school saw what happened? What if they say mean things? Anthony hadn't considered this possibility. In the age of smartphones and social media, their humiliating experience could have spread beyond the park. "If anyone says anything that makes you uncomfortable, you tell Mrs. Patel right away," he said firmly. "And remember, we did nothing wrong." "We're stronger than they know," Lily recited their motto, a small smile finally breaking through. Anthony leaned back to kiss her forehead. "Exactly, I'll pick you up at 3 right here." "Promise you won't be late?" Lily asked, her eyes suddenly anxious. The question stabbed at Anthony's heart. His daughter had never worried about him not showing up before. "I promise," he said, pulling her into a tight hug. Nothing could keep me away. He watched Lily walk into the school building, her yellow backpack bouncing with each step. Only when she disappeared through the doors did he drive to his office, his mind still troubled by her newfound fear. At Taylor Architectural Design, Anthony tried to focus on the hospital wing project due by the end of the week, but his concentration kept slipping, the memory of those police officers questioning his daughter playing on repeat in his mind. "Earth to Anthony," a voice broke through his thoughts. He looked up to find his business partner, David Wong, standing in his office doorway with 2 coffee cups. "Sorry," Anthony sighed, accepting the offered coffee. "Rough weekend." David took a seat across from him. "You seem really out of it. Everything okay with Lily?" Anthony hesitated. David was more than a business partner. They'd been friends since college. If anyone would understand, it was him. "Someone called the police on me at the park Saturday," Anthony explained, the words leaving a bitter taste. "They thought I was kidnapping Lily." David's eyes widened. "You're kidding me. Your own daughter? Apparently a black man with a lighter-skinned child doesn't compute for some people," Anthony said, running a hand over his face. "That's messed up." David shook his head. "Is Lily okay?" "She's shaken up. Asked me this morning if I promised to pick her up from school. Like she's suddenly worried I might not be allowed to." The pain in Anthony's voice was unmistakable. "I'm so sorry, man. That's just—" David trailed off, clearly at a loss for words. "The thing is," Anthony continued, "it could have gone so much worse. If I'd reacted differently, if those officers hadn't been reasonable, if Lily had been too scared to speak clearly." His phone buzzed with an incoming email. Anthony glanced at it, then sat up straighter. "It's from that woman who recorded the incident," he explained to David. "She sent me the video." Together, they watched the footage. Seeing it from an outsider's perspective made Anthony's stomach churn. The way Renee positioned herself between them and the exit. The gathering crowd, Lily's frightened face, the officer's initial wariness. "This is going viral," David said quietly, pointing to the view count at the bottom of the video. "Over 10,000 already." Anthony's phone began ringing. An unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Taylor? This is Vanessa Rivera from Channel 7 News. We've seen the video of the incident at Oakwood Park this weekend, and we'd like to interview you about your experience." Anthony froze. "How did you get this number?" "It's listed for your business," the reporter replied smoothly. "This story is gaining traction online, Mr. Taylor. People are talking about it. Wouldn't you like a chance to share your perspective?" "I need to think about it," Anthony said finally. "My daughter's well-being comes first." After ending the call, he looked at David with wide eyes. "The local news wants to interview me." Before David could respond, Anthony's email notification pinged again, then again, and again. "More interview requests," he muttered, scanning the messages. "Newspaper, radio show, another TV station." David whistled low. "It's definitely going viral." Anthony's phone rang once more, this time a familiar number. "Mr. Taylor, this is Principal Gardner from Washington Elementary." Anthony's heart dropped. "Is Lily okay?" "She's fine," the principal assured him. "But I thought you should know that we've had several reporters show up asking questions about you and your daughter. We've asked them to leave, of course. Student privacy is our priority." "Thank you," Anthony said, relief washing over him. "I had no idea this would blow up like this." "Mr. Taylor," Principal Gardner continued, her voice gentle but firm. "Given the circumstances, I think it might be best if you picked Lily up early today. Some parents have been calling and children talk. I'd like to spare her any additional stress. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Anthony promised. After hanging up, he quickly explained the situation to David, who immediately waved him off. Go. Family first. I've got the Henderson meeting covered. On the drive to Lily's school, Anthony tried to make sense of how quickly their private trauma had become public fodder. He'd just wanted to take his daughter to the park, and now they were at the center of a viral story about racial profiling and family diversity. At the school, he found 3 news vans parked across the street. Anthony pulled his car around to the back entrance as Principal Gardner had suggested, and texted her that he had arrived. A few minutes later, she escorted Lily out to his car. To his relief, his daughter didn't seem upset, just confused by the early pickup. "Am I in trouble?" she asked as she climbed into the back seat. "Not at all, sunshine," Anthony assured her. "I just thought we could use an afternoon off." "How does the Science Center sound?" Lily's face brightened. "Can we see the space exhibit again?" "Absolutely," Anthony smiled, grateful for her resilience. As they drove away from the school, carefully avoiding the news vans, Anthony's phone rang yet again. This time it was a number he recognized. "Hello, Mrs. Patel," he answered, putting the call on speaker. "Mr. Taylor," Lily's teacher said warmly. "I wanted to check how you and Lily are doing. I heard about what happened at the park." "We're managing," Anthony replied, catching Lily's eye in the rearview mirror. "Taking it one step at a time." "I wanted you to know that something remarkable happened in class today," Mrs. Patel continued. During morning circle time, Tyler mentioned seeing a video of Lily and her dad at the park. Before I could intervene, Lily stood up and very calmly explained to the whole class that some people don't understand that families can look different from each other. Anthony's eyes widened in surprise. "She did? She was quite eloquent," Mrs. Patel chuckled. She told them, "My daddy doesn't need to look exactly like me to be my daddy. He's my daddy because he takes care of me and loves me more than anybody." Tears pricked at the corners of Anthony's eyes. "That's my girl," he whispered. In the back seat, Lily beamed with pride. The beautiful thing, Mrs. Patel continued, was how the class responded. Several children shared stories about their own diverse families, step-parents, adoptive parents, grandparents raising them. It turned into an impromptu lesson on family diversity that I couldn't have planned better myself. After thanking Mrs. Patel and ending the call, Anthony pulled into a parking space at the Science Center and turned to face his daughter. "I'm really proud of you." "Lily, Mrs. Patel told me what you said in class today." Lily shrugged, suddenly shy. "I just told the truth." "That was very brave," Anthony said softly, "and very smart." Inside the Science Center, they lost themselves in the wonders of the universe, with Lily excitedly pointing out her favorite constellations in the planetarium show. For a few precious hours, they were just a father and daughter enjoying each other's company. The viral video and news vans temporarily forgotten. As they were leaving, Anthony's phone buzzed with a text from David. "You need to see this." Attached was a link to a social media post. While Lily was distracted by the gift shop display, Anthony opened the link. It showed photos of dozens of families gathered at Oakwood Park, families of all configurations and colors. The caption read, "Family Diversity Rally at Oakwood Park tomorrow at 10 a.m. All families welcome. Families come in all colors. Stand with Anthony and Lily." Anthony stared at the screen in disbelief. People he'd never met were organizing a rally in support of him and his daughter. Among the comments, one caught his eye. "My adopted son and I will be there. This could have happened to us." Another read, "As a white mom with biracial kids, I've gotten the looks too." "Enough is enough. What are you looking at, Daddy?" Lily asked, returning to his side with a small stuffed planet. Anthony showed her the post. "People are gathering at the park tomorrow to support families like ours." Lily studied the images thoughtfully. "Can we go?" Anthony hesitated. Part of him wanted to shield Lily from further public attention, but another part recognized the teaching moment. "Do you want to go?" he asked carefully. Lily nodded. "I think we should, for all the other daddies and kids who don't match exactly." Anthony smiled, once again amazed by his daughter's wisdom and courage. "Then we'll go," he decided. Together. As they walked to the car, hand in hand, Anthony felt a strange mix of emotions, lingering anger and hurt from the incident, pride in his daughter's resilience, and a new feeling he hadn't expected. Hope. What had begun as an act of prejudice was transforming into something powerful, a community coming together to stand up for the beautiful diversity of families. Anthony couldn't change what had happened to them, but perhaps their story could help prevent it from happening to someone else. "Ice cream before dinner?" he suggested, squeezing Lily's hand. With extra sprinkles, she grinned back. Some rules, Anthony decided, were made to be broken, especially on days when your 8-year-old showed more courage and grace than most adults. The next morning, Anthony woke up earlier than usual. He lay in bed for a few moments, staring at the ceiling and wondering what the day would bring. The family diversity rally was scheduled for 10 a.m., and he still wasn't entirely sure attending was the right decision. Part of him wanted to protect Lily from further public exposure, while another part recognized the importance of standing up and being counted. He found Lily already awake in her room, carefully selecting an outfit. "Morning, sunshine. You're up early," he said, leaning against her doorframe. "I need to pick the perfect outfit for the rally," she explained seriously, holding up 2 different t-shirts. "Which one looks better, the yellow one with the stars or the one with the rainbow hearts?" Anthony smiled despite his nerves. "The yellow stars match your backpack, but it's going to be warm today, so maybe short sleeves would be better." Lily nodded thoughtfully, putting aside the rainbow heart sweatshirt. "Yellow stars it is." Over breakfast, Anthony tried to prepare Lily for what they might encounter at the park. "There could be reporters there with cameras," he explained gently. "And lots of people we don't know. If it feels overwhelming at any point, just squeeze my hand 3 times and we'll leave right away. No questions asked." "Okay," Lily agreed, munching on her cereal. "But I think it'll be fine. Mrs. Patel says I'm very brave." "The bravest," Anthony agreed, his chest tight with love and worry. "But even brave people need breaks sometimes." As they drove to the park, Anthony noticed his hands were sweating on the steering wheel. The incident had happened just 2 days ago, and returning to the scene felt strange. He wondered if Renee would be there, or if the officers who had responded might show up. He was unprepared for the sight that greeted them when they arrived. Oakwood Park was transformed. At least 100 people had gathered near the playground, many holding colorful handmade signs. "Love makes a family. Families come in all colors to stop policing parenthood." "Wow," Lily whispered, her eyes wide. "All these people came because of us?" "Because they believe in what we believe," Anthony corrected gently. "That families come in all different forms and they all deserve respect." As they walked toward the crowd, a woman approached them. She wore a press badge and carried a small notebook. "Mr. Taylor, I'm Grace Chen from the Tribune. Would you be willing to share a few words about what happened here Saturday, and what this rally means to you?" Anthony hesitated, looking down at Lily. "What do you think, Sunshine? Should we talk to the reporter?" Lily considered this seriously, then nodded. "We should tell our story so other kids don't have to worry about their daddies being stopped just because they look different." Grace smiled warmly at Lily, then turned to Anthony. "Your daughter is quite wise. She gets that from her mother," Anthony said with a sad smile. They found a quiet bench away from the main crowd, and Anthony shared their experience, the accusation, the police questioning, and the viral aftermath. He was careful with his words, aware of Lily listening beside him. "What surprised me most," he concluded, "wasn't that someone profiled us. That happens. What surprised me was how quickly it escalated from a look of suspicion to police involvement. There was no attempt to observe us, to see our interaction as father and daughter. Just an immediate assumption of danger." Grace nodded, taking notes. "And how do you feel about this rally today?" Anthony looked around at the diverse crowd. "Heartened. It shows that for every person who jumps to the worst conclusion, there are many more who understand that love is what makes a family." After the interview, they joined the main gathering. People kept approaching to offer words of support, share similar experiences, or simply introduce their own diverse families. Lily was initially shy but soon warmed up when she met other children her age. A small stage had been set up near the playground, and a woman with braided hair and a bright yellow suit took the microphone. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilwoman Diane Rivera. Thank you all for coming today to stand for family diversity and against racial profiling." The crowd applauded as she continued. "What happened in this park 2 days ago to Anthony and Lily? Taylor is unfortunately not an isolated incident. Across our city and our country, Families who don't fit someone's narrow definition of what a family should look like face unnecessary scrutiny, suspicion, and sometimes danger. She gestured toward Anthony and Lily in the crowd. The Taylors are here with us today, and I want to personally thank them for their courage in sharing their story. All eyes turned to them. Anthony felt a moment of panic at the sudden attention, but then Lily slipped her small hand into his and smiled up at him. Her quiet confidence steadied him. "Would you like to say a few words, Mr. Taylor?" Councilwoman Rivera asked, extending her hand toward the microphone. Anthony hadn't planned to speak, but Lily was already tugging him forward. "Go on, Daddy," she encouraged. "Tell them about us." With Lily by his side, Anthony stepped up to the microphone. The crowd fell silent, waiting. "I'm Anthony Taylor," he began simply. "This is my daughter, Lily. 2 days ago, someone in this park couldn't imagine that we belonged together. They couldn't see past our different skin tones to recognize the bond between a father and his daughter." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I'm an architect by profession. I spend my days designing spaces for people to live, work, and play together. I believe in building bridges, not barriers. What happened to us was painful and humiliating. But seeing all of you here today reminds me that for every person who wants to divide us, there are many more who want to unite us." The crowd applauded, and Anthony felt Lily squeeze his hand in encouragement. "My late wife, Jasmine, used to say that love is what makes a house a home. The same is true for families. Love is what makes a family, not matching skin colors or shared DNA." More applause filled the park as Anthony concluded, "Thank you for standing with us today. Let's keep building a community where all families feel safe and respected." As they stepped down, people reached out to shake Anthony's hand or pat Lily's shoulder. The atmosphere felt almost celebratory, a community coming together to affirm what should have been obvious all along. Then Anthony spotted a familiar face at the edge of the crowd. Renee, the woman who had called the police on them, was standing alone, watching the proceedings with an unreadable expression. "Stay here with Ms. Chen for a moment," Anthony told Lily, gesturing to the reporter who had interviewed them earlier. "I need to speak with someone." Lily followed his gaze and stiffened when she recognized Renee. "Be careful, Daddy." "Always," he promised, squeezing her hand before walking over to where Renee stood. She looked different today, smaller somehow, without the righteous indignation that had fueled her on Saturday. When she saw Anthony approaching, she visibly tensed. "I didn't expect to see you here," Anthony said evenly. Renee swallowed hard. "I didn't plan to come, but I saw the news coverage and—" She trailed off, then straightened her shoulders. "I wanted to apologize. Anthony hadn't expected that. He'd prepared himself for defensive Ennis, for justifications, but not for a straightforward apology. What changed your mind?" he asked cautiously. "Everything," she admitted. "The video, for one. Seeing myself through other people's eyes was enlightening and painful." She gestured to the crowd. "All these people showing support for you and your daughter. It made me question my assumptions." She took a deep breath. "My sister adopted 2 children from Ethiopia last year. When I called her after the incident expecting her to understand my concerns, she instead asked me how I would feel if someone called the police on her and her children. That hit home." Anthony remained silent, processing her words. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Renee continued. "What I did was wrong. I acted on bias I didn't even realize I had. But I wanted you to know I'm truly sorry for the pain I caused you and your daughter." Before Anthony could respond, Lily appeared at his side. She must have slipped away from Grace Chen to join him. "You made my daddy very sad," Lily said to Renee, her voice small but steady. "And you scared me." Renee knelt down to Lily's eye level. "I know I did, and I'm very sorry. I made a big mistake." Lily studied her face carefully. "My teacher says when you make a mistake, you have to learn from it." "Your teacher is right," Renee nodded. "I'm trying to learn from this mistake." Lily seemed to consider this, then asked, "Are you going to call the police on other daddies and kids who don't match?" "No," Renee said firmly. "Never again." Anthony placed a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. "Sometimes the hardest thing is admitting when we're wrong," he said to Renee. "Thank you for the apology. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was acknowledgement. Some wounds would take longer to heal than others." As they walked back to the rally, Lily looked up at her father. "Are you still sad?" Anthony considered the question seriously. A little, he admitted. But mostly I'm proud. Of you, of the community that showed up today, and even a little bit of Renee for trying to make things right. Me too, Lily decided, swinging their joined hands. And I'm hungry. Can we get hot dogs from the food truck? Anthony laughed, grateful for his daughter's ability to move from profound to practical in the space of a heartbeat. Hot dogs it is, he agreed, with extra ketchup. As they joined the line at the food truck, surrounded by new friends and allies, Anthony realized that what had begun as one of the worst days of his life had somehow catalyzed something powerful and positive, a community awakening. The incident couldn't be undone, but perhaps its impact could be transformed, like a building renovated from its foundation to become something new and stronger. 2 weeks after the rally, life had begun to settle into a new normal for Anthony and Lily. The initial media frenzy had died down, though their story had sparked ongoing conversations about racial profiling and family diversity across the city. Anthony had returned to his architectural projects, and Lily was back to her regular school routine, though both carried the experience with them in different ways. One evening, as Anthony helped Lily with her homework at the kitchen table, his phone rang. It was Councilwoman Rivera who had spoken at the rally. "Mr. Taylor, I hope I'm not interrupting your evening," she began. "Not at all," Anthony replied, mouthing 5 minutes to Lily, who nodded and continued working on her math problems. "I'm calling because the City Council is organizing a community forum on family diversity and bias awareness next Thursday evening," the councilwoman explained. "We'd be honored if you would consider speaking about your experience. Many community leaders will be there, school principals, police officers, neighborhood association representatives." Anthony hesitated. While the rally had been heartwarming, he wasn't sure he wanted to keep revisiting the incident. "I understand if you'd rather not," Councilwoman Rivera added quickly. "Your privacy is important, and you've already done so much by sharing your story." "It's not that," Anthony said. "I'm just not sure what more I can add to the conversation that hasn't already been said. Sometimes personal stories touch hearts in a way that statistics and policies never can," she replied. "People need to see the human impact of these assumptions and biases. But please take time to think about it. The invitation stands." After hanging up, Anthony turned back to Lily. "How's the math coming along, sunshine?" "Almost done," she answered, then looked up curiously. "Who was that?" "Remember Councilwoman Rivera from the rally? She wants me to speak at a community meeting next week about what happened to us at the park." Lily put down her pencil. "Are you going to do it?" Anthony sighed. "I'm not sure. What do you think?" Lily considered this with the same serious expression she wore when choosing between ice cream flavors. "I think you should," she decided. "Maybe it will help other daddies and kids like us." "Maybe," Anthony agreed, touched once again by his daughter's wisdom. "But it means talking about that day again in front of a lot of people." "That's okay," Lily shrugged. "The scary part is over. Now it's just a story we can tell to help people learn. Just a story." Anthony marveled at how children could sometimes simplify what adults complicated. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps by reframing their experience as a teaching moment, they could transform it from a wound into a source of strength. "All right then," he smiled. "We'll do it together," Lily beamed. "Can I say some words too?" Anthony hesitated. "We'll see, sunshine. Let's find out more about the forum first." The following Thursday evening, Anthony and Lily arrived at the community center where the forum was being held. The large meeting room was already filled with people, far more than Anthony had expected. His palms grew damp at the sight of the crowd. Councilwoman Rivera greeted them warmly. "Thank you both for coming. We have quite a turnout tonight." "I see that," Anthony replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Could you walk me through how this will work?" "Of course. We'll begin with a brief introduction about why we're here. Then I'll invite you up to share your experience," she explained. "After that, we'll have a moderated discussion with our panel of community leaders. You're welcome to join that conversation as much or as little as you'd like." As they took their seats in the front row, Anthony scanned the room. He recognized several faces from the rally, as well as Principal Gardner from Lily's school. To his surprise, he also spotted Officer Chen, one of the police officers who had responded to the call at the park. Most unexpected of all, was seeing Renee sitting quietly at the back of the room. She caught his eye briefly, offering a small, hesitant nod of acknowledgement. The forum began with Councilwoman Rivera, welcoming everyone and explaining the purpose of the gathering. "We're here tonight not to point fingers or assign blame," she emphasized, "but to learn from one another and to build a more inclusive community where all families feel safe and respected." When it was Anthony's turn to speak, he walked slowly to the podium, his heart pounding. Looking out at the sea of faces, he took a deep breath. "2 weeks ago, I took my daughter to the park just like I've done hundreds of times before," he began. "But this time was different. This time someone looked at us and couldn't imagine that we belonged together." As he recounted their experience, the accusation, the police questioning, the humiliation, the room fell completely silent. Anthony spoke not with anger, but with honesty about how it felt to be seen as a threat rather than a loving father. "When the video of our experience went viral," he continued, "I was initially embarrassed. None of us wants our worst moments broadcast for the world to see. But then something unexpected happened. People began sharing their own stories. Multiracial families, adoptive parents, grandparents raising grandchildren, all who had faced similar suspicions and assumptions." Anthony paused, gathering his thoughts. "I'm an architect. I design spaces where people live their lives. I know that the environment we create shapes how people behave and interact. The same is true for our community. We're all architects of the social spaces we share, and we all have a responsibility to build those spaces with care and thoughtfulness." He concluded by addressing the room directly. "I don't have all the answers. I'm just a dad who loves his daughter. But I do know that assumptions can be dangerous and that love, not appearance, is what makes a family. Thank you for listening and for being willing to have these difficult conversations." The applause was warm and sustained as Anthony returned to his seat beside Lily, who squeezed his hand proudly. What followed was a thoughtful panel discussion. School principals talked about educating children about diverse family structures. Police officers, including Officer Chen, discussed training to recognize and counter implicit bias. Community leaders shared initiatives to bring different families together. During the Q&A portion, a woman stood up and identified herself as a transracial adoptive parent. "How do you prepare your children for moments like what happened to you and Lily?" she asked Anthony. He considered her question carefully. "I wish I could say I had prepared Lily perfectly, but the truth is I was hoping to shield her from these realities a bit longer. What I've learned is that we need to have age-appropriate conversations early on, not to scare our children but to equip them with the understanding and words they might need." Another hand went up. It was Renee. The room fell quiet as she stood. "I was the person who called the police that day in the park," she said, her voice slightly shaky but determined. "I've already apologized privately to Mr. Taylor and his daughter, but I feel I should speak publicly as well." She turned to face the crowd. "I acted based on assumptions and biases I didn't even recognize I had. I thought I was protecting a child, but I was actually causing harm to a loving family. Since then, I've been doing a lot of soul-searching and learning. I've enrolled in bias awareness training, and I'm working with a local family diversity organization as a volunteer." Renee looked directly at Anthony. "I can't undo what I did, but I can try to prevent similar situations in the future by sharing my story as a cautionary tale about the harm that unexamined bias can cause." The room was silent for a moment, then filled with thoughtful applause, not celebration, but acknowledgement of the courage it takes to publicly own one's mistakes. As the forum concluded, people began to mingle. Lily tugged at Anthony's hand. "Can I show Principal Gardner my project now?" Anthony nodded, and Lily proudly pulled a colorful poster from her backpack. She had been working on it secretly for days. A family tree that branched out to include not just blood relatives but chosen family as well. "People Who Love Me and I Love Back," she had titled it. Principal Gardner admired the poster with genuine interest. "This is wonderful, Lily. Would you consider sharing it at our school assembly next week? I think many students would benefit from seeing it." Lily's face lit up. "Really, I can show everybody?" "Absolutely," Principal Gardner smiled. "In fact, I'm thinking we might make family diversity the theme of our spring art show." As they were preparing to leave, Officer Chen approached them. "Mr. Taylor, I wanted to thank you for speaking tonight. Your story has had an impact on our department. We've implemented new training protocols specifically addressing family diversity awareness. Anthony nodded appreciatively. That means a lot to hear. Thank you. On the drive home, Lily was unusually quiet, looking out the window at the passing streetlights. Penny for your thoughts, sunshine? Anthony asked gently. I was just thinking about Mommy, Lily replied. Do you think she would be proud of us? Anthony felt his throat tighten with emotion. Without a doubt, he managed. She was always the bravest person I knew. Until you came along, Lily smiled at that. I wish she could have been there tonight. In a way she was, Anthony said softly. She's part of our story, and every time we share it, we're honoring her too. When they arrived home, Anthony tucked Lily into bed with her favorite space-themed blanket pulled up to her chin. Daddy? She murmured sleepily. I'm glad we went to the park that day. Anthony was startled. You are? Even with everything that happened? Lily nodded, her eyes already closing. Because now we're helping lots of families like ours, and we're stronger than they knew. Anthony kissed her forehead gently. Yes, we are, sunshine. Yes, we are. As he turned out the light and quietly closed her door, Anthony reflected on the unexpected journey of the past 2 weeks. What had begun as a painful incident had somehow evolved into a catalyst for positive change. In their community, in people like Renee, and even in themselves. Some wounds never fully heal, he knew. But they can transform you, teaching resilience and compassion in equal measure. And sometimes, through the most unlikely circumstances, they can bring people together to build something new and stronger than before. Anthony Taylor, architect of buildings and now in some small way of change, smiled as he headed downstairs to finish his own project. Sketches for a new inclusive community playground where all families could feel welcome.